Today, I'm delighted to have two new guest speakers on the program. It's my pleasure to welcome Ann Warren, Vice President of Public Relations, and Christine VanTimmeren, Director of Content. Ann and Christine are both with ClearEdge Marketing, and ClearEdge Marketing has been a gold member of the RVOA since 2020 and is a leading marketing agency in the staffing and recruitment industry. The speakers will discuss how PR can accelerate and amplify your and your clients' marketing and recruitment efforts, and I'm looking forward to their insights. So now, without any further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Ann and Christine to introduce themselves and share their presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you for that welcome and that intro, Lamise. We are so grateful for your partnership and for this incredible RPOA community, and it is a pleasure to be here. And thank you to everyone who is joining us today. We're so glad you're here. We hope you come out of this presentation knowing a little bit more about PR and how you can potentially incorporate it into your marketing. Here we go. Ann and I are both PR and content experts at ClearEdge Marketing, and I'll tell you a bit more about ClearEdge in a moment, but first we're going to start by introducing ourselves. So as Lamise said, I am Christine VanTimmeren. I am the Director of Content at ClearEdge Marketing. So I oversee a team of public relations and content experts, and together we develop and then execute public relations and content strategies on behalf of our clients. I have about 5 years of marketing and PR experience, but before that, I spent the first 10 years of my career as a TV news anchor and reporter. So I was on the other side of PR, which gave me a pretty unique perspective. And Ann, I'll toss it over to you.
Great, thank you. I'm Ann Warren, Vice President of Public Relations here at ClearEdge. I've worked in PR for 20 years with a heavy focus on media relations and messaging. My work includes building and executing comprehensive PR strategies, and that typically involves message development, working with the media to secure press coverage, writing content to be marketed or published, and leveraging PR for sales enablement. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. Christine, back to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ann. Oops, back it up. There we go. All right. Before we dive in, a little bit about ClearEdge. ClearEdge is, in case you don't know, is an organization dedicated to transforming the business of talent through our marketing, recruiting, and career empowerment services. So at ClearEdge Marketing, we do that by providing strategic marketing solutions and teams. And then our executive search function called ClearEdge Recruiting fills cornerstone marketing leadership roles like CMOs and SVPs of marketing, using our years of experience in the talent agency combined with our marketing connections. And then finally, ClearEdge Rising is a program focused on accelerating career growth for women leaders in the talent and HR tech space. All right, let's get to what you came here for. You came here to learn about public relations. So to start, research finds that companies that engage in public relations are 89% more likely to be perceived as a high quality brand. I'd say that's pretty huge. So let's talk about what exactly public relations is. From a super high level perspective, public relations, or PR, is the creation and maintenance of an organization's public image. So it's not only about how people view your organization, it's about creating those connections between your organization and then various audiences. Now, this list you see is not an exhaustive list of PR tactics by any means, but generally speaking, these tactics fall into the public relations category. So in some cases, it's about capitalizing on a moment, be it an event, a crisis, a product launch, a speaking engagement. In other cases, it's finding ways to be proactive and stay relevant in the marketplace by doing things like securing reporter-written articles, podcast interviews, TV interviews, bylined articles, and what else am I missing here?
Well, it's really about relationship building as well. So engaging with reporters over time, building strong relationships with analysts and different influencers in your space, and really nurturing those relationships. And building those relationships takes thoughtfulness, it takes patience, it takes time, and definitely an intentional effort. So in case you're still not convinced, PR is a worthy marketing tactic. Take it from Bill Gates. He said if he was down to his last dollar, he would spend it on public relations. And that's a pretty strong testimonial. So what makes PR so valuable to Bill Gates and to so many others? So we've boiled it down to these 6 benefits you see here. So starting with building credibility and awareness, whether it's media coverage or a speaking event or a podcast, it's helping inform others and then create awareness about your organization. So when media covers you in a favorable light, for example, that will build credibility. That third-party validation is really powerful. For supporting new business, when your CEO is quoted in a publication or your company wins an award, this can be used in your new business efforts. So showcasing those wins is really important in talking with prospects. The last item on the top row here is improving market positioning. So you want your audience to view you in a certain way, right? So media coverage and speaking opportunities, press releases, awards, influencers, and analysts are talking about you. All of those elements are really working together to build that image and then improve your influence in the market. It strengthens loyalty. So the stronger your brand and the more engaging your brand, the more loyal your customers will be to you. And it also really helps with recruiting. So candidates that are looking for new career opportunities are Googling any company they apply for. If they find media mentions in trending articles, if they see you've won multiple awards, if they see you're putting out news via press releases, this is all going to come together and paint a picture of a relevant, active, and strong company. So really important for recruitment. And then finally here we have supporting investor relations. So for any of you on the webinar now who are public companies, PR has an entirely additional layer here, and that strong company image and messaging to investors is going to drive valuation.
And so for those of you who have engaged in public relations before, you've probably encountered this issue. How do you measure its impact? And it is true that measurement is challenging. The phone doesn't just start automatically ringing off the hook after an article publishes. And we honestly cannot tell you most of the time how many people actually read a particular article. But here's what we can measure and what we can see. So maybe you see a boost in your website traffic via your Google Analytics after a press release goes out. And then maybe you see another boost in traffic after an interview airs. And then over time, the number of people coming to your website each month increases, and you can track that. You can also track your share of voice with competitors. So your presence in the media compared to how often your competitors are in the media. And again, over time, your share of voice, your share of that pie can get larger. And then maybe you also have some strategic keywords that your company wants to own on Google search. And so by leveraging those keywords in your media placements, eventually when people go to Google, they put in those keywords, your placements might show up on page 1 of those Google search results. But there are also more qualitative indicators as well, right, Ann?
Absolutely. So it's important to get feedback from your prospects, your clients, and your partners. It could be that a key target is seeing the placement that you shared on LinkedIn, and they might leave a comment. Or it could be that your sales calls are now warmer because the prospects say that they've read your recent placement where your company was quoted. So they've heard of you before that call. It could be that when a prospect Googles your company's name, they're impressed that not only does your website show up, but so do a whole host of media placements and other strategic press releases. Again, you don't want to be the only one talking about you and your company. So you want the person reading about you to see that third-party validation. And we love stories like this one. We recently had a client get asked to speak at an event because of a media placement that event leader had read. So our client was asked to be the keynote for a leadership summit and that summit was director level leaders and above. The speaking topic was the world of work trends and their implications on employee engagement. So that was a great opportunity to get in front of a high level audience. And another point I'd like to note is that many times coverage begets coverage. So we've had clients get more inbound media requests because those reporters come across their names and other media placements that they see and read online. And they're viewing them as thought leaders, so they come back to them, and then we receive inbound requests to be quoted in future articles. And here's one more real life example of the power of a placement. So we have a recruitment client who was publishing a yearly survey report on women in tech. And it looked at the state of women in their tech careers. It analyzed the progress and the advancements, as well as the challenges that women were facing in technology careers. So we had connected with the Wall Street Journal about the survey findings. We positioned our client as thought leaders and subject matter experts in this area. And then one of the reporters was actually doing a story about women in tech with a focus on highlighting the company Sephora. They were highlighting Sephora as a company who was actually successful at hiring and retaining women in technology. So she interviewed our client for the story, and our spokesperson was one of several sources that were quoted. So the article itself was a major win, but what we do with the placements is absolutely critical. And that's what really brings this value of media placements to an entirely new level. So we promoted it heavily on social media. We put together a plan to promote it, and this is multiple times. You don't just have to promote it once on each platform. You find different ways to promote it over the course of days, weeks, even a few months later. The article, which was actually published a few years ago, it still comes up in search results, so we're still getting brand recognition from it. And it resulted in new relationships for our client. The woman quoted actually received a couple of LinkedIn connection requests, and one in particular she shared she was really excited about because the person had read the article, then reached out to connect on LinkedIn, and then wanted to meet up for coffee to talk about a potential partnership. So media coverage and the other PR elements that we've mentioned, they really have the potential to impact your business in multiple ways. All right, so what does PR actually look like for you as an RPO? And Christine and I really wanted to give some tangible examples for you. So one thing we wanted to share was you could brainstorm thought leadership articles about recruiting and talent acquisition trends and pitch them to trade publications. So you likely want to be known for probably some of the following topics: understanding the labor market, the latest hiring trends, what hiring demand looks like in the current economy, how to scale a workforce up and down. These are just some examples that probably resonate with you all. So let's say you're wanting to target companies in the pharmaceutical industry as potential buyers. You would take a look at what you're seeing in terms of the talent market in this space, what's interesting, think about what's unique and what's surprising to you. And then you formulate those thoughts into a story idea, and you would reach out to those publications, again, using the pharma industry as an example. You'd reach out to publications such as Pharmaceutical Executive or Outsourced Pharma, and you suggest those ideas as story topics. So that's an idea that specifically targets potential buyers. And then this next idea is more about general brand awareness. So you can also pitch a story idea to a reporter at a business publication, and they might include some quotes from you. So in keeping with the same industry example, let's say you would find a reporter at a Wall Street Journal or a Business Insider who covers pharma, then you would suggest a new angle for them, and then you offer your company as one of the sources. So now this is a broader business story example, but then you could take that placement and use it in your new business efforts, as we kind of mentioned earlier, ways to do that. So you can use it as a touch point with a prospect or include it in a sales tech. And then that's how you get it hyper-focused on your potential target. So looking at some ideas outside of media coverage, let's talk about awards. You could apply to industry awards, like the ones offered by RPOA. Clearly Rated has the Best of RPO award. There are plenty of best places to work. The Inc. 5000. There are lots of industry awards that you can apply for both as a company and then also as individual leaders within your organization. Christine, what else?
You could use PR to bolster your marketing campaign. So say you have a big workforce trends report or workforce predictions report that's coming out. You can pitch the report and some of its key findings to reporters. Or you could distribute a press release about the findings in your report. Another thing you could do is coordinate product launches or other announcements to coincide with an event or conference. So say you're attending some event associated with the RPOA or Staffing World or an SIA event, whatever it may be, you could say, we're going to do a big announcement ahead of that and then talk about it more at the event to, again, like I said, generate that increased excitement and awareness. We've talked about press releases a little bit, but not everything is press release worthy. I'm sure you all know that. Things like maybe a C-suite promotion, a new product or a new service, maybe those are good opportunities for a press release. You could also use a press release to highlight sort of more broadly your overall company successes and future plans. You could do this sometimes as an end of year wrap up, or you could distribute it in January, say, for instance, to kick off the new year. You have some new initiative and you want to promote that. And then finally, journalists love data. Write this stat down. When asked what content or information they want from PR pros, 68% of journalists say they want data in the form of original research, trends data, market data. And then when asked what PR pros can do to make their jobs easier, again, 66% of journalists say to provide data and expert sources. So whether you're mining your own internal data for insights or you're conducting an outside survey to gather data, it really is a great strategy for securing media coverage. All right, so we talked about what you can do with your own PR, but believe it or not, your clients' PR efforts can help you too. You can use your clients' awards and placements and mentions in your recruiting efforts. So let me explain. Say, for example, your client's company receives an award for best place to work. You can share that with the candidates that are applying for jobs at that company, and it helps you position your client's company as a place that that candidate would want to work for. So it lends credibility to the company. Even if an individual in your client's company receives an award, it can show candidates that, hey, this company cares about its people, it cares about their careers, and they care about highlighting that in a very public way.
Right. And if your client has a media placement, an interview, or sends out a press release, you can share that with candidates too. You can share it with those interviewing for a position with that company or those just considering working for that particular company. It's also a great reason to reconnect with candidates. So you might want to reach out, but maybe there's no update on the role that they're interviewing for. You can still connect and share that client's media placement with them as a touch point. So it makes your client look good, and it's just an opportunity to check in with those candidates. In addition to sharing media placements, you can tell candidates when someone from your client's company speaks at industry events too. Again, that's going to show your client, your candidate, that your client's active in their industry and that they have leaders who are sought after, innovators and speakers. So there are lots of ways to be creative with how to use PR to connect with your various audiences. And by being thoughtful and intentional, PR can really elevate your brand, support recruiting top talent, and help you capture more market share.
All right. And with that, we've already reached the end of our presentation. I hope you all learned something. I hope we convinced you, if you weren't already convinced, that PR is a good investment, not only for you and the work that you do, but at the end of the day, your client's investment in PR can also help you. So at this time, I think we can open it up for questions. I'll toss it back to Lamise and hear if there's anything else you'd like to dive deeper into.
Sounds good. And Jennifer asked a question I was curious about as well. She wants to know, how do you know if you have something that is media worthy?
Oh, that's a good one. maybe I'll start, and Ann, you can take it from there. Something that's
Yeah.
media worthy. So think about the journalists themselves and what they cover. So the journalists themselves isn't going to say, yes, your company is so amazing and I want to do a whole profile on your company. What they're saying is, I have this audience of people and I know what they're concerned about. I know what's top of mind for them. I know what they're really caring about. And those are the types of stories that they want to cover. So if you can somehow connect your company to something that you know a particular journalist audience cares about and is concerned about, that's kind of how you know it's media worthy. So it's not just about what makes your company great and what makes them different. It's how can we connect what we do or the knowledge we have to something that's relevant to a particular audience or group of people. And anything else you would add?
Yeah, and I would just add, think about when you're reading that reporter's coverage. What's missing? What are they not saying? What are you seeing from your unique vantage point of what you do day in and day out that you're thinking to yourself, why haven't they covered this angle? Or, gosh, I could really add this thought, right? So you never want to pitch something that's already being covered over and over and over. You want to find a new slice of that topic, or perhaps an entirely different topic based on the reporter's coverage area. That's a great question. And the last thing I'll say too is sometimes you don't know and you have to just try it and you see what they say. And if you hear crickets, that's probably not newsworthy, but we do that all the time too. Sometimes you just have to try.
That's marketing, right?
Yeah.
Lindsay just asked something relevant there. And so she's asking, do you have any recommendations on following up when you don't hear from a reporter on a pitch or release? Specifically, when you don't hear back, do you assume they are not interested and then let go, or you try again?
That's another great question. You want me to jump in, Christine?
Yeah, you're the expert in that. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, there's really no absolute answer on number of days or a week. I know, just speaking from the ClearEdge PR team, we all follow a slightly different schedule on that. Some of it's kind of knowing the reporter, and some of it is trial and error. But I would say, generally speaking, definitely leave a few days between. You don't want to harass them and follow up right away. So leave some space for them to digest. But I will say that many times reporters do not see all the emails. They don't read all the emails that come through. So when you're reaching out, I would just reach out, getting straight to the point, kind of restating your original email, but it's very likely that they have not seen it. And I will also say that calling is a really good way to follow up, because more times than not, when I call and get them on the line, they will say, no, I didn't see your email. And I might have sent it twice already. So that's a good way to get them. And then you have them live and you can get their feedback live, and they might say, no, I'm not interested. Or they might say, oh, that sounds really interesting. Tell me more. And if they do say, I'm not interested, you use that as an example to say, what are you interested in? What are you working on that I can help you? Because you've already got them on the phone. So kind of have some backup pitches in mind, as well as just asking them, how can I help you do what you're doing?
Yeah. And I think there's definitely data that shows, first of all, journalists say, yes, follow up with me. Like, they're okay with that. They're okay if you check in a couple times or however many you need to. But then a majority of the time, you will not secure coverage with one email or one pitch. It is the follow-up that secures something. So don't think, oh, I sent it and they didn't get back to me and that's it. Most of the time, it does take subsequent follow-ups to secure something.
Yeah.
Good answers. Another good question, and I'm going to combine two questions about how to get started with PR if it's not something you dabbled with before. And as an example, if you have an article, white paper, how do you use press releases to promote that?
Okay, I'll jump in with the first one. I would say it's easy to start small. So you don't always need a press release. Actually, most times you don't need a press release to reach out to reporters, right? There's a few things to get started, just kind of figuring out who you want to reach, figuring out what they're reading. There's your media target. And then the second step is figuring out that angle, as we talked about, and then putting together a very carefully written and concise email about it. So you can just start with one, you don't have to take on a huge campaign. You can just start with piecemeal pitching. There's nothing wrong with that. Christine, anything to add there?
Yeah, well, I'll jump in on the question about if you have a white paper or some sort of report. So that's a great tool for PR. It's a great marketing asset, right? It's a big valuable content asset you have that PR can also support and help gain additional reach and exposure to it. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. You could put out a press release that says, hey, we just released this report that had this finding. Now make sure the story isn't the fact that you released a report. The story is, what is the key finding that your report or your content asset, whatever it was, is talking about. So that's the main headline. What is the big thing that you found, that you discovered, that you think is interesting? And that's sort of the big headline. So you could put out a press release that talks about that. And then, like we talked about before, add data and statistics and whatever you have that supports that. And then take that and send pitches to different publications or people that you think might be interested in the insights in that white paper or in that report, whatever it may be. Just going back then to how you get started, say you want to get started in speaking opportunities or something like that. It's similar to the process Ann said. Think about, who do you want to reach? Find events and things where those people are going to be, where they're going to be attending, and then reach out and find out, hey, is there an opportunity to be on a panel? Hey, is there an opportunity to be a keynote? And most of the time, those are opportunities that do require some level of investment, paid opportunities, but still super valuable. And honestly, there's no shame in starting local and small too. So if you're thinking about, oh, I have to go pitch the Wall Street Journal and New York Times. No, you don't. You can pitch your local media outlets where your company is headquartered, or maybe where your CEO is located, or a good chunk of your executive team is located, and see if you can get in a local business journal or a local TV station or something like that. So it's okay to start local and then expand to regional and national as you kind of get your feet wet at the local level.
And most times that requires that build up to the national level does require some experience and some previous coverage, because that reporter is likely to Google whatever subject matter expert you're pitching. And so if nothing's coming up, it's just a stronger argument if they can find previous coverage in trade publications or local coverage or whatever it may be.
Right. So I'm going to ask another question, and I'm going to say my disclaimer is I know vaguely about PR. So if I'm not making sense, help me out. But from what I'm hearing, some of the PR tactics requires reaching out to reporters, as you're saying. So you need to know these reporters, have the relationship, the connections with them. But I also know there are some programs or PR tools that you can use. Is that the same thing, or are these two different tactics?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, there's a lot of research you can just do by going online and Googling people and looking up different reporters' names, connecting with them on LinkedIn. Sometimes they have their email addresses on LinkedIn. So I would say, first and foremost, you don't necessarily have to invest in a tool to get access to reporters' contact information. Sometimes it's available. It may take a little bit of digging, but it is available in some cases. But yeah, then there's programs. I don't know if you've ever heard of Cision or Muckrack or Meltwater. Those are all PR programs that software that have journalist databases. So you can search names, you can search publications, you can look for contact info. There's a lot of information on those tools. We use the tools like that, and they're super helpful. Those tools are also then helpful when it comes to measurement, because they can track articles and share a voice and UVM of different publications, so the number of people that read different publications. So it is valuable from a database standpoint, tracking and monitoring and measuring standpoint. And then you have other platforms and programs for like press release distribution. So you've got Business Wire, PR Newswire, Global Newswire. Those wire services are what you use to get your press release out. And those do cost money to use. Sometimes you can use on an ad hoc basis. You can also get a subscription too. There's different ways to go about it.
A couple more questions if you are open to staying with me for a couple more minutes. Can you give us, so you can run your PR as campaigns, I'm assuming. Is there a budget for what these campaigns can look like? Maybe, I know there's no end. There's always, you can keep going.
Yeah.
What's a good starting budget?
It does vary quite a bit. And it's different if you're leveraging an outsourced PR agency like ClearEdge, or if you're leveraging other individuals or tools and your internal team. So it truly varies. But a small to mid-sized company, I mean, you could easily with an agency spend $5,000 to $10,000 a month for a retainer for a PR agency, and that will get you that ongoing and very strategic public relations that leverages a lot of the tactics that we talked about. You're going to get a strategy, you're going to get, themes and messaging to support your public relations efforts. Then, like you said, large enterprise organizations, they can spend well above that for PR agencies that coordinate all of their reputation management, their crisis communications, their consistent media relations. I mean, big companies might get inbound media requests all the time, and so somebody has to manage that. But if you just want to leverage PR for a few campaigns throughout the year, it is much more manageable. And so what you'd be paying for is maybe the press release distribution costs and the time it would take someone to write content, write pitches, and then send them out to a very targeted and small list. And distributing a press release through a Business Wire, PR Newswire can cost you anywhere from $800 to $3,000, depending on your word count and then your geographic distribution. So if you want to do a national distribution, it's going to cost you a lot more than if you want to do more localized regional distribution.
Yeah, there's global distribution too.
Yes, global. Yep, that's a whole other level.
Yeah. So we learned a lot. It's a lot of good information, but I also feel like it's still overwhelming. So for those who can use the support of working with an agency like ClearEdge Marketing, what's your contact information, or who should they reach out to?
Yeah, you could reach out to myself. You could reach out to Ann. We could put our emails in the chat.
Yeah, is there an email or clearedgemarketing.com?
I'll just give you mine. And then I'm sure there's others from ClearEdge who are on the call and could put whether there's other generic emails that you could use. But I'll just throw mine in the chat here. And Ann did too. So both our emails are in there. Feel free to reach out to either of us at any time. We'd be happy to help.
Wonderful, thank you. And before I let the audience go, I do want to announce the next webinar for December. So if you can stop sharing your screen, Christine, I will take over. Thank you. And we also have some new audience on the call, so welcome. If this is your first time, I do want to introduce you as well to the Recruitment Process Outsourcing Association. We are a mission-driven and member-driven organization serving the global RPO ecosystem and striving to be the place to go for RPO. We're the biggest and the most engaged community of RPO experts. The association offers platforms like this webinar to educate the marketplace about RPO in particular and talent acquisition trends and best practices in general. ClearEdge, today's presenter, is a gold association member, our corporate membership allows companies to position themselves as thought leaders in the recruiting world and gain more visibility and brand recognition in the RPO industry, similar to what Anne and Christine were telling us about PR as well. We invite you to get to know us better by joining the RPOA, attending webinars, and our annual conference, typically in the fall. Our next webinar will be on December 14th, and our partners at Advanced RPO will be speaking about creating and using a recruitment scorecard as a strategic TA tool. You can find upcoming events and tons of free quality content on the RPOA website at rpoassociation.org. And with this brief overview of the RPOA, I'd like to conclude today's webinar. I hope you had a great rest of the day, and please stay connected, stay engaged, and stay informed of what's happening in the talent and RPO world by tuning into the RPOA, the place to go for RPO. Thank you for attending, and thank you to our wonderful speakers, Anne and Christine. It was a pleasure to have you all. See you all soon.
Thank you very much.